Hi, do you wanna try?
其实搞不懂你们到底想什么？你以为有了小药丸就可耍帅可以摇头，还有戏可以补吗？只要试了一次，你就身体摇晃，脑袋空空，神志也不清。流行在我这，
流行在我这，
自信在我这，
自信在我这，
酷炫在我这，
酷炫在我这，
狂派在我这，
狂派在我这。
我辣，但我拒绝吸毒。
您现在收看。
It's your money. Bullseye issue number 1, the world's largest aerospace company, Boeing, finding itself the subject of a criminal probe this morning surrounding the hiring of a senior Pentagon official. In Washington, with more on this story, CNBC's Hampton Pearson. Hampton?
Well, Dylan, first of all, Boeing officials are telling us that they continue to and have been from the beginning fully cooperating with all ongoing investigations, whether it's by the U.S. Attorney in Northern Virginia or the Department of Defense. Now, how this ball has gotten moved down the field is this. It now appears that at the same time, about 10 days or so ago, when the Pentagon announced it was suspending the Boeing contract, the multi-billion-dollar contract for refueling tankers, we also are now learning that's when a criminal probe of Darlene Druin, who is the really former Pentagon official at the eye of this storm, really got underway. At issue for investigators right now is at what point did she recuse herself while still a government and Pentagon employee from any ongoing contracts related to Boeing. She later left the Pentagon and was hired by Boeing, and that's where we sit right now. Now, Boeing, when it did its own investigation, said basically it found that her conduct and that of Michael Sears violated its ethics. Those two were fired. And Phil Condit, when he stepped down 10 days ago, said it all stopped there. It was the actions of the individuals. Well, now what government investigators want to know is, in fact, is that the case? And that's where the investigation proceeds tonight.
Hampton, thank you very much. Now, at stake for Boeing, as Hampton mentioned, is one of its most lucrative businesses, selling weapons to the U.S. government. At stake for the rest of us is the government, and as taxpayers, is a critical relationship that we have with one of our government's largest suppliers of defense systems. Lauren Thompson, President and Chief Operating Officer of the Lexington Institute, who follows the defense and security industry, and John Robinson, editor of Defense Daily, which tracks the defense business, and of course, Becky Quick. Lauren, we start things off with you. How much does this compromise the relationship between Boeing and the government?
It's probably going to turn out to be a fairly trivial matter. It has to be investigated because Boeing has conceded that there was some degree of unethical behavior here, but it looks to me more like a technical violation than some sort of substantive scandal.
How much of this is Boeing's problem, and how much of this is really just a problem with some of their employees, albeit senior ones at the time?
It doesn't look like a pattern to me. You know, this story was broken in the Wall Street Journal today, and they said that there was an accelerating investigation and appeared to show a pattern. I don't really see a pattern. And remember, this is a $50 billion corporation. So far, we've got a handful of scandals, not even really scandals, but problems associated with a handful of programs. It doesn't, to me, rise to the level of a pattern.
But there are problems out there. If you listen to what Congress is saying about this, a couple of senators are writing directly to the Pentagon and saying they have a problem with it. There's an issue. John, what do you think about that?
I would agree with Lauren to the extent that I think it's really important that Boeing keeps this problem limited to the Department of Air Force. I think something that a lot of people, investors in particular, may have missed is the fact that Boeing is continuing to sign huge contracts with the Department of Defense. I mean, the perfect example was the one the other day with the Army for the Future Combat System. So really, they're continuing to do a lot of business with the Pentagon right now as this investigation sort of takes up a lot of the airspace. It's business as usual for a lot of the other things they're doing right now.
At the same time, John, when we're spending as much as we are, $400 billion on defense, we all have an interest in getting the best possible price when the government puts contracts up for bid. Is there any sort of a hiccup where we're down a bidder in some situations because of this?
Dylan, I really think the problem is the massive consolidation we saw in the 1990s when we went from dozens of defense contractors really down to 4 or 5. The Pentagon does not have much leverage to go in and bring in alternative sources for defense contracts in the United States, and clearly we're not going to go overseas to export defense jobs to France or someplace like that.
Having said that, though, Lauren and John, both of you, having said that, isn't this something that someone like Lockheed Martin can actually go ahead and capitalize on?
Well, Becky, it depends on what the product area is. If it's in launch capabilities for rockets, if it's in satellites, maybe so. But in the case of a tanker lease, there's exactly one domestic producer of large aircraft. So we got two choices here. We can buy from Boeing or we can buy from the French. Take your choice.
Well, John, Lauren, this is my whole problem, and that's what raised my eyebrows when I saw the criminal investigation, even if it is just a blip, is with the amount we're spending, how do we create a more competitive environment and still get the cutting-edge development that you get from these big conglomerates?
But Bill, the reason that the industry consolidated was because of low demand. Now, demand has picked up since then, but it's not so clear that we're willing to pay the price to sustain two suppliers for example, tankers, or for tanks, for that matter.
And I think a better example of that, Dylan and Becky, is that the fact the Pentagon was faced with the decision in the past week internally whether or not to go to 2 satellite launchers, and I think there were forces in the Pentagon that really wanted to go to 1 launcher, and that would be Lockheed Martin. Clearly, the Pentagon walked away from that because they think that we need 2 providers, and they don't have a choice but to stick with Boeing. So, we really have sort of a dilemma in our hands to provide some incentives for getting alternative contractors in to pick up some of the slack here.
I'm going to leave it right there and let you guys enjoy your weekend. We appreciate your time. Lauren Thompson and John Robertson with us as Scott Wapner has a look at the rest of today's business news headlines. Scott?
All right, Dylan, good evening. And we begin, folks, with a look at the dollar this hour. It sank to an all-time low versus the euro after Treasury Secretary John Snow said its recent decline has been, quote, orderly. Now, traders seized on those comments to sell off the greenback on the belief that despite its strong dollar rhetoric, the White House actually does want to see the currency fall even further. A weaker U.S. dollar helps American exporters by making their products less expensive overseas. Now, we're checking the dollar right here, losing about another 0.5%. And checking the closing levels on the major indices on Wall Street, the Dow ending 34 points higher at 10,042. Meantime, the NASDAQ gaining 6 points today to end at 1949, and the S&P 500 edging up 1 point to 1072. Now, for the week, the Dow gaining 1.8%, the NASDAQ edging higher by 0.5%, and the S&P 500 jumping 1.2%. Those are your business headlines. Dylan, back over to you.
All right, thank you very much. On Bullseye, the Golden Globe nominations to be announced on Monday. We're going to tell you 5 ways to play this Hollywood event. Plus, the guy who invented the wacky wall walker has his sights set on buying toy store FAO Schwartz. We're going to talk live with Ken Hakuda to find out why he would invest in the retail toy business. And do you think Japanese cars are made better than American cars? Find out if your perception is on target when you're a buyer, because it's your money.
CNBC Asia, profit from it.
Why did I come to Dubai? Well, after Paris, Hong Kong and Bombay, I wanted a completely fresh working environment, a new challenge. This is a fantastic place to be in luxury goods. It's one of the great international hubs, tax-free and still developing. There is a harmony here. Our staff comprises 17 nationalities who share the same work ethic. At home, we're only 2 nationalities, but equally harmonious. We put a lot of effort into family life. But work is my first priority. Or schoolwork in my kids' case. The choice of international schools means they French education as good as I had. The way Dubai opens up exciting business opportunities, it's a new education for me. Any negatives? No, it's tough work. But I suppose somebody's got to do it.
Why Dubai? In association with Dubai International Airport and Dubai 2003. A vision realized by the winds of change that shape our land, the United Arab Emirates. Seizing opportunity, inspiring confidence, fulfilling ambition. Dubai, crossroads of the new global economy.
Only one show goes behind the headlines, looking deep into stories that drive Asia. The Asian Wall Street Journal.
Hong Kong's economy grew.
With exclusive insights from the editors of Asia's premier business newspaper, we bring you a preview of tomorrow's front page, giving you a jump on the business and political news of the day. Plus interviews with business leaders for comprehensive analysis on issues affecting Asia. The Asian Wall Street Journal. Weeknights on CNBC Asia.
To play Bullseye's look at everyday events and how you might profit from them. We talked to a media analyst by the name of Dennis McAlpine of McAlpine & Associates to find 5 ways to play the entertainment industry ahead of Monday's Golden Globe Awards. Among the big media companies McAlpine likes, only one of them rates a buy. It's Disney. This with all the hubbub about clamoring for Michael Eisner's resignation. He says the stock's beaten up and it's worth buying. For the rest of them, hold them. Time Warner, a hold. They do have Lord of the Rings, he says, but the company's so big that even if Lord of the Rings is a hit, doesn't have that much of an impact. Viacom, a hold in McAlpine's opinion. Still thinks the radio business over there is a little fragile. News Corp, a hold. The big question there is how does DirecTV play out for them? And then as for the Golden Globes, most specifically, the one publicly traded studio that's most directly tied to its movie success is Lionsgate, a much smaller company. He likes it. LGE, the ticker on the name, it's a buy, and that's today's 5 ways to play the entertainment stocks ahead of the Golden Globes. McAlpine does not own or have a business relationship with any of the companies that we're just talking about. As we turn our attention to toys now. It's a New York City retail landmark. It gets more tourists in many cases than it does shoppers, but that trend ultimately put FAO Schwarz in bankruptcy court for the second time this year. It's 141 years old. The company now has until Monday to either sell or liquidate its assets, and one of the men who wants to save the troubled toy store is with us tonight. He says he's got $5 million of his own money, made it selling that wacky wall walker. You remember the octopus that sticks to the wall? And another $25 million lined up in financing. Why should you care? Well, the toy industry is a big one, $22 billion on the line. Toys actually slow growth here, only 1% growth since 2000. 80% of all toys, just so you know, made in China. And with us, Ken Akudo, a.k.a. Dr. Fad. He's the toy expert trying to rescue FAO Schwarz. Also with us, Maria Weiscott, the editor of Playthings magazine, and then Hillary Kramer, our regular Bullseye contributor. We welcome all of you this evening. We start with you.
Thank you.
You've got a bid on the table. You've got your toys with you. What does FAO Schwarz have to say to your bid?
Well, right now, you see, the problem is that they're already liquidating the company right now.
So did they respond to you?
No, they're not responding to many people right now, or anybody. And to complicate matters further, the current bankrupt company does not own the FAO trademark. It's owned by the Schwarz Family Foundation. So what are you buying here? You can get some leases. You know, I think it's really a back-to-business situation, back to basics, where you have to make the legend, the fun, and the imagination in the flagship store, and then couple that with maybe 1 or 2 other locations. And very importantly, you have to get the FAO Schwarz name. And I found out today that actually the Schwarz Family Foundation just controls the FAO name itself. Schwarz, they could not get.
All right, Maria, I want to know.
Interesting.
The deadline is upon us. We're coming up on the midnight hour. Do you believe that this asset will be liquidated, or will either, whether it's Dr. Fad here, or there's also been speculation about Donald Trump, who owns the building that FAO resides in, step in as a buyer?
I think someone will step in as a buyer. The FAO name an icon, really, in retail itself, and the toy industry will remain.
If you look at Dr. Hakuda's bid, is this the sort of thing that is even worth considering, or is he just, making noise? Not to disrespect you, but Maria, is a $30 million bid for FAO Schwartz even a reasonable bid?
I don't know if that's a reasonable bid or not, but I think that the company needs to look at it one way or the other. The foundation.
But what could your plan be, Dr. Fad, if really this is about pricing? And the problem is that Walmart came in and Target came in, and even Toys R Us has been struggling because of these discounters there. What is your plan for reviving this brand?
Right. Why is FAO Schwartz in the situation, the bind it's in right now? Really bankrupt. And the classic, reasons are, of course, Walmart, Toys R Us, with several locations in Manhattan. But the real answer to that is really mismanagement. Why did management have to go expand in many?
So you think it had to do with
absolutely. And not only that, why did they have to go buy Zany Brainy? Okay. Why? Well, it was an easy way to get your top line up to $450 million. But so what? They were going down, and I think they really have to focus on specialty toys. I think they have to take the example of like the Sharper Image. Okay, you can find products there that don't exist in other retail stores, and they need exclusive products.
Maria, what were you going to say?
Yeah, I was going to say that I think Ken is on the right track here. And actually, if I can make a little correction there, it wasn't FAO that bought Zany Brainy. Actually, it was the Right Start that bought Zany Brainy and bought the FAO also, and changed the name to FAO Inc. because FAO is the most recognizable name, which should show the importance of that.
But is FAO, as venerable as the brand may be,
yes, it is
a way to sell toys in the future, to pick up on Hillary's point, or is the way that toys get sold changed and they're just not the right way to do it anymore?
Well, I think the thing is not, as Ken said previously, is not to try to compete with mass, which is where FAO did go astray a little bit, putting Barbie on the shelves, putting G.I. Joe on the shelves, putting product on the shelves.
Okay, so FAO Schwartz, when it had those specialty toys, as Dr. Fed is referring to here, that's when it was the stellar #1 icon out there.
That's right.
It was, but we have to remember today that in addition to the big boxes in mass market and everything we want to call Walmart and Target, everybody is selling toys.
Okay, but Dr. Fad here has some very interesting toys, and just for a second here, if you can go over some of these very unique inventions.
That's right. Some of these could end up at the new FAO Schwartz that we would control. Right. Because I hear from a lot of consumers, not just investment people, and they say, well, it's become a high-priced Toys R Us. There's no point to that, For example, let me just show you some of these.
What's your favorite? Okay,
this is a very CNBC. It's real Bullseye kind of thing, Today was a bull day, but on bear days, as FAO sells these $1,500 Steiff toys, but this is one where you've had a really bad bear day, and you can't stand it. You say, okay, I'm really tired of the bear here.
That's terrible,
bear, but when it really tanks, you feel like doing that. But not to worry, you can put them right back together.
So this is where the big money is.
Oh, yeah, okay. It's a really bad day. It's going like this, and, you're really in trouble.
Doctor, have a great weekend. We're grateful for your time.
Thank you, and good luck to you. Good luck with
we'll see, and hopefully it'll last through Christmas at least.
Maria, thank you for your time.
You're welcome.
We'll see you shortly, Wacky Wall Walker. And you made it a fortune with this.
Well, it's a great toy.
I gotta let you, I like how you can stick it to your face. Coming up on Bullseye, The Perspective, 4 new topics, plus from the concert stage to the runway, the money behind fashion and how rockers want a piece of the action, and what's driving the consumer's perception when it comes to cars. And is your perception buying you the best car it could? It is, after all, your money.
CNBC Asia. Profit from it.
The foot bone's connected to the knee bone. The knee bone's connected to the hip bone. The hip bone's connected to the rib bone. A rib bone's connected to the chest bone. The chest bone's connected to the shoulder bone. Shoulder bone's connected to the head bone.
Only TNT connects the people who make your supply chain work.
It's easy to connect them bones.
If it seems things are moving too fast, you need news as it breaks to stay ahead. Dow Jones Newswires provides real-time financial news vital for today's businesses.
Huge gains.
You get access to that comprehensive coverage through CNBC's exclusive partnership with Dow Jones Newswires.
The dollar is still rebounding both against the euro
and get the news as it breaks.
The dollar is higher against the major currencies.
For definitive business and markets coverage in real time, Dow Jones and CNBC.
Only on CNBC Asia, the people who influence the world's economy.
Policy is to encourage countries to adopt market-based rates.
The business leaders whose insights help you stay in touch with the business world.
We don't think that hybrid is the only solution.
Opinions you can profit from.
The oil price will be on the high end of historic average.
Some positive signs of a pickup in the residential trading market.
So don't miss out on more of these exclusives. Seen and heard only on CNBC Asia.
In the Bullseye Perspective, 4 of today's hot topics. We're going to tell you what's being said, what we have to say about it, and what the Bullseye Perspective panel thinks. John Najarian, PTI Securities, with us tonight. Robert Chapman, Chapman Capital, and Becky Quick. Today's topics: tourism, labor, the flu, and our mystery topic. And we start with those who used to play professional football. John, that means you. Pick a topic.
I'll go with tourism, Dylan.
All right, tourism. It is the Bullseye issue. Simple. Is there a travel rebound underway or not? The Bullseye Perspective, absolutely. 04 looks like a good year for the airlines, relatively speaking, certainly for the hotels and anybody else in that business. John?
Been traveling a lot right now, Dylan, so I can tell you. Boston sold out. New York City is rocking. Chicago, hotels booked to capacity. So, yes, indeed, we're seeing the turnaround. Airlines also doing well. You look at Starwood, Hilton, and Marriott, and you're seeing 3 stocks trading near their 52-week highs. I think it's projecting pretty well for 04 and probably 05 as well.
Chapman, you a buyer?
I'd be shorting all those things. Hilton has earned 45 cents in 04. Stock trades at 35 times, just like Starwood. This company made twice that amount at the peak a few years ago, and it traded at a 13 multiple. Why would someone pay 35 times for it today? These stocks should be shorted here right now.
All right, pick a topic.
Give me my choices again. Let's go with the flu. Why not?
The flu is an optimist. The issue, the vaccine shortage, has been in all the papers. The Bullseye Perspective, this is good for those in the flu business, namely flu mist. You been putting any trades on around the flu, Bob?
You know, I'd be shorting Metamune as well. They have the flu mist product. The problem with flu mist and the people that are buying Metamune is that CDC, the Center for Disease Control, they're telling people that they need to be inoculated for the flu, especially if you're old. Well, 90% of the 50,000 people who died of the flu this year were the elderly, and it's not approved by the FDA for the elderly. So people who are buying Metamune for flu mist are going to get smoked when they realize that the very people that need this can't even get a prescription.
I disagree completely with you on that one, Robert. What's happening is a lot of these big health insurance companies are now saying that they'll cover the flu mist. They never did before because it cost about $47.
They can cover it all they want, but if they can't get a prescription for someone who's over 50 years old because the FDA won't allow it, who cares? There's storage. Who are they going to prescribe it to?
Kids, and a lot of people are out there worried. If you're a mom, if you're somebody who has kids at home, you're probably worried about this.
I've got bad news for you on the kids front too. If you're 5 or under, you also can't get it. So you're going to have to
storage is also a big problem here, guys. Storage of the product. I mean, they weren't at all set up to store it in the pharmacies, and also Aventis is the play here, not AVE, Aventis. That's the one you want to be buying. It's up from 53 to 61.
I totally agree. Aventis is a safe way to play it. The herd's going to ride into Metamune because they see the word flu mist, and like you said there, they read about how the HMOs and the PPO is going to carry it, but it does not matter. It's the elderly that need it. They can't get it.
Becky, pick a topic.
Oh, I want to go with mystery.
All right, mystery it is. The deal finally signed between Serena Williams and Nike. $40 million on the line. Nike's able just looks better and better. The Bullseye perspective on this one. Chalk another one up for Nike. This is a big one for them, Becky.
I think chalk one up for them, but look what they've had the last couple of deals they've had going. I mean, Serena, obviously, she is on the top of her game, even though she had surgery and she's back out. But the other guys that they've been signing, let's see, Kobe Bryant, they signed him for a lot of money right before he got brought up on these charges. They also brought in LeBron James, which could be a big play, but man, they're paying him what, like $90 million or something?
That's $100 million.
And he's never played a game.
I would say for once, I think I'm going to agree with you on that one.
For once, thanks.
For once. They
actually, Throw me a bone.
They actually signed up Kobe Bryant the same month that he got nailed for whatever he did in Colorado. I don't think Nike's going to have an easy time using Kobe Bryant for a Just Do It campaign, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, but and LeBron James is the real deal, guys. LeBron James is going to drive shoe sales for a lot of years to come. Remember, Michael Jordan's still causing $170 million worth of Nike shoes to be bought every year, and this is years after his retirement.
From a former Chicago Bears mouth to Nike's ears, we'll take it, John. Labor, the last one on the board. Flip it over. This is going to be right up your alley, Bob. California strikes a huge boom for those who are not unionized, namely Costco. The stock's already had a run. We'll take a stab at this, Bob.
Well, actually, I'm actually going to be a bull on a couple names here. I think the labor strikes in California will end pretty soon, and the one I'd buy is Safeway. It trades for 10 times 04 estimates. All you need is a couple multiple-point expansion there, and you make 20% on your money. And I have to tell you, maybe this is the capitalist in me, but the big argument here is over $5 a week on health care. I don't think that these people that are checking out steaks and chicken understand that the health care cost for these companies has gone up 40 or 50%. So I think I just lost my mic here, so I'll hold it.
It's okay, just hold on to it. Do you own the stock, Bob?
I do. I own Safeway.
You get so excited. John, you're nodding your head, but I don't know if you're in agreement or not.
I'm in agreement. I like Safeway. I own it as well, Dylan, and I also own Costco because I think it drove a lot of people into Sam's Clubs, into Walmart, and into Costco. And now that they've discovered these places, they're going to continue to shop there, and that's good news for Walmart, WMT, and Costco, COST.
John, don't you think once the strike is over and they get better service at a Safeway, it's convenient they're going to go back there and Costco's going to lose a lot of that flow?
I'd love to hear the answer, but I'm going to leave it there. We'll leave them hanging. I'm going to come back right after this with Show Me, Make Me, Take Me. I'll give these guys a stab at that as we look forward on Bullseye. Toyota or Ford, Chevy or Nissan, which car brands can you trust? And the hottest names in music. Why do they think they can also design clothes? And actually, they're doing a pretty good job of it. We'll look at that. Also, 3 German teenagers being investigated for fraud after they spent $160 million in a 2-hour time period. Internet shopping. Who knew it could be done? They said they did it because they were bored. The 19-year-old splurging on some light aircraft, industrial machinery, and some artwork after hacking into an account on an internet auction site. According to police, they gave boredom as their primary motive and made no attempt to disguise what fun they had.
CNBC Asia. Profit from it.
Stunning landscapes. The sport of a lifetime. My Indonesia, endless beauty of diverse city.
Pending merger. It would be critical that these discussions be held confidential.
It doesn't have to be this hard to get the information you need to do business in Asia. For more than half a century, business leaders and yes, even intelligence agencies have trusted one source for valuable insights. The Far Eastern Economic Review. Get crucial information on Asia before it becomes news. Get the Far Eastern Economic Review, the business of Asia.
The Asian Wall Street Journal, the premier business news publication, and CNBC, the world's leading business news network, come together in an exclusive partnership to bring you the news that matters every business day.
Asian Wall Street Journal newspaper are following the story very closely.
Today's top corporate stories from Asia and around the world. Plus, the latest developments and trends in Asian markets, management, business, and technology. The Asian Wall Street Journal and CNBC. Stay ahead with the business insight that will shape the future.
Every week, every hour, all day, every trading day. From Europe to the US and across Asia.
Let's get straight to the market.
CNBC has all the latest business news and up-to-the-minute financial information.
Wall Street's a
pretty positive start to keep you informed and connected to the global and regional.
Bullseye, our thought-provoking, fast-paced, and engaging program on your money. We continue now with the Bullseye Perspective. John Najarian, Robert Chapman, and Becky Quick. And John, why don't you finish what you were about to say going into the commercial?
Well, I mean, I like Costco. I do think they're going to continue to hold on to those customers, as Bob asked, because people find out how much money they save and how wide the product selection is at a Costco.
All right, show me, make me, take me. We start with you, Becky. Show me the money.
Well, if you're watching stocks today, you know, the Dow Jones Industrial Average, it finished higher today, and a big part of that reason is because of shares of UTX. It's the Dow Jones Industrial Average component. There was a lot of money going into this today, and part of this is because UTX took all the analysts out to dinner last night. Wined them, dined them, showed them around. And not surprisingly, a lot of these analysts were feeling a lot of love for UTX today. They were putting a lot of pretty positive notes out there. Now, the funny thing is, the company actually reined in guidance a little bit. It gave guidance for 2005 that was a little bit below the first call consensus on this, but still everybody thinks that all the analysts that were giving notes today actually thinks that this may just be some conservative guidance, and you actually saw Prudential upgrade the shares today.
Either you two have any real useful thoughts on
Go ahead, argue with me again, Robert.
You've silenced them, Becky. They're both.
I love the Otis elevator play of UTX, so I'll go with that. I love the way they're growing that business, and it's just steady money every single month. I think UTX is absolutely in the right place and doing a lot of things correct.
A lot of the money's coming from Asia.
John, make us some money.
All right, I'm going to try. How about gold stocks in particular, Dylan? Because the commodity's been absolutely on fire. Traded up to 411, a little bit of a pullback, and now I like Anglo Gold. I like that one. This is a little safer play because Anglo does a lot of hedging. So some of these gold producers, of course, don't do as much hedging. Anglo's one that does, and I like the upside of the stock, and I think that with the weak dollar, you're going to continue to see money flowing into gold.
I see Chapman shaking his head and Becky's finger in the air, but I'm going to beat them both to the punch. I think you're out of your mind. The stock, the commodity has had its run. The stocks have done it. The dollar's weak. I think you're late to the party.
Well, I'm still riding it. I mean, we've been along this thing since 320, Dylan. I still like it. I like it to break to 440 on the upside.
You know, Goldman Sachs came out and they raised their estimate on the commodity gold today. They actually think it's going to $420, but they still said they don't like most of the stocks because they're overvalued.
And also, who doesn't know that gold's gone through the roof already? There's no secret there. It's a huge risk. This thing comes down just a little bit. All the speculative retail guys that are in these stocks are going to bail fast.
I'll tell you what,
you're actually
an
on my
awful lot
side.
of fast money flowing into the options, though, Dylan. The options players are buying out-of-the-money options, institutional-sized blocks, 2,000, 3,000 at a clip. Placer Dome was where they were placing bets this week.
And what do they know? These guys are buying options on spec. They don't know where it's gold. They don't have anybody in a mine checking out what's happening with these things.
They don't need to be in a mine. They just need to know it's going over 400 and it's going to hold.
All right, Bob, take our money. Not that I want you to do that, but if you wanted to, how would you do it?
Well, I think I can take it from both these people I'm going up against today. The short I'd actually put in is on Rambus. Symbol's RMBS. The company's got a $3 billion market cap going right now. Stock's gone from 3 to 30 because they've had a couple victories in court, in the district court, and recently in an appeals petition to the Supreme Court. The company basically has absolutely zero earning power after legal expenses because it's an intellectual property company if they lose a couple things that are coming up here. In the next couple weeks, Chief Administrative Law Judge McGuire is supposed to decide whether or not there was a breach of trade between Rambus and Infineon due to a standards committee that apparently Rambus used to get patents, and now they're trying to get these other companies that were part of the standards committee to pay the royalties and license fees. If they lose, and this could happen any day now.
Are you short right now?
I am. If they lose, this thing goes down hard. It's a $3 billion market cap. Earnings power could go to zero overnight. There's tons of retail guys. Same guys that are buying those gold options are probably buying Rambus options right now.
Who wants a rebuttal?
You know, Robert, the only question I got is what happens if they don't lose?
I think at $3 billion cap, the stock goes up 5 points from here, maybe, then it settles in. They still can, the Infineon still has a private antitrust, a patent suit that still has to go back to the district court on a rebuttal, so they still could lose. It's $3 to $30 reflects the good news.
All right, John Najarian, Bob Chapman, and Becky Quick, we thank you all. Back with us at the end of the show, Bob Chapman in the roundtable along with Becky. We bid Mr. Najarian a fine weekend. On Bullseye, can you name the most reliable mid-sized car in America? What you may think could actually be far from reality. Bullseye looks at the perception and reality game in the car industry, plus the growing business of musicians branching out into the fashion business. Find out that their clothing actually may be more profitable than the music that got them into it.
CNBC Asia. Profit from it.
This is out of control. How am I supposed to manage all of this? No, that's not what I mean. Look, I just want this to work with that. That's not a solution. There has to be a better way.
And now, GE brings you New China.
I think Soyon has, ever since 1985, decided that we want to come into China and as a developer. But of course, the first 10 years or so, it was a learning curve. So we sort of cultivate the relationship with the people, the government officials, learn the market, invested a little in a small